Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Bhagavad Gita as it is ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Yoda Premanande.
Hari Hari.
Oh. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So, would you like a book, Prabhuji? Here, you can. Here's one for you. Okay, so we're going to do Mangalacharna, and then we're diving into 1821. Om Jnana Timirandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatang Sahagana Raganatan Vitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam kongam lang hayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam. Ooh. Alright, Krishna. Okay. Chapter 18, text 21. Prataktvena tuyajnanam nana bhavan pratak vidhan veti sarveshu bhuteshu tajnanam vidhirajasam. That knowledge by which one sees that in every different body there is a different type of living entity, you should understand to be in the mode of passion. Purport. The concept that the material body is the living entity, and that with the destruction of the body, the consciousness is also destroyed, is called knowledge in the mode of passion. According to that knowledge, bodies differ from one another because of the development of different types of consciousness. Otherwise, there's no separate soul which manifests consciousness. The body is itself the soul, and there is no separate soul beyond the body. According to such knowledge, consciousness is temporary, or else there are no individual souls, but there is an all-pervading soul which is full of knowledge, and this body is a manifestation of temporary ignorance. Or, beyond this body, there is no special individual or supreme soul. All such conceptions are considered products of the mode of passion. It's a little bit like the Christians, and they consider man to be made in the likeness of God, but not animals. And I have heard one, I don't know if this is very scriptural of them to say, but I did hear one making the claim that animals don't have souls. And they claim that Jesus has given them dominion over the lands and animals and are free to eat any of the animals they like. So it's actually kind of explained here. There as seeing the living entity is the body. There's no separate soul, and it enables him to justify that killing of innocent creatures. Text 22. Yatu kritsnavad ekasmin karye saktam mahaitukam atat varta varalpam cha tatamasam udahritam. And that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as the all-in-all, without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is said to be in the mode of darkness. Purport. The knowledge of the common man is always in the mode of darkness or ignorance because every living entity in conditional life is born into the mode of ignorance. One who does not develop knowledge through the authorities or scriptural injunctions has knowledge that is limited to the body. He is not concerned about acting in terms of the directions of Scripture. For him, God is money, and knowledge means the satisfaction of bodily demands. Such knowledge has no connection with the absolute truth. It is more or less like the knowledge of the ordinary animals, the knowledge of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. Such knowledge is described here as the product of the mode of darkness. In other words, knowledge concerning the spirit soul beyond this body is called knowledge in the mode of goodness. Knowledge producing many theories and doctrines by dint of mundane logic and mental speculation is the product of the mode of passion, and knowledge concerned only with keeping the body comfortable is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Nityam sangarahitam araga dveshata kritam apala prepshuna karma yattat satvikam uchyate. That action which is regulated and which is performed without attachment, without love or hatred, and without desire for fruitive results is said to be in the mode of goodness. Purport. Regulated occupational duties as prescribed in the scriptures in terms of the different orders and divisions of society, performed without attachment or proprietary rights, and therefore without any love or hatred, and performed in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the Supreme, without self-satisfaction or self-gratification, are called actions in the mode of goodness. Remember we were talking about that earlier? Without love or hate. Attachment and aversion being two sides of the same coin.
Oh, yeah.
Yatu kamepshuna karma sahankarena va punaha kriyate bahulayasam tad rajasam udahritam. But action performed with great effort by one seeking to gratify his desires and enacted from a sense of false ego is called action in the mode of passion. Anubandam kshayam himsam anapeksha cha paurusham ohad arabhyate karma yattat tamasam uchyate. That action performed in illusion, in disregard of scriptural injunctions, and without concern for future bondage, or for violence or distress caused to others, is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Purport. One has to give account of one's actions to the state or to the agents of the Supreme Lord called the Yamadutas. Irresponsible work is destructive because it destroys the regulative principles of scriptural injunction. It is often based on violence and is distressing to other living entities. Such irresponsible work is carried out in the light of one's personal experience. This is called illusion, and all such illusory work is a product of the mode of ignorance. Muktasango naham vadi dhrityutsaha samanvita siddhya siddhyor nirvikara karta sadvika uchyate. One who performs his duty without association with the modes of material nature, without false ego, with great determination and enthusiasm, and without wavering in success or failure is said to be a worker in the mode of goodness. Purport. A person in Krishna consciousness is always transcendental to the material modes of nature. He has no expectations for the result of the work entrusted to him, because he is above false ego and pride. Still, he is always enthusiastic till the completion of such work. He does not worry about the distress undertaken. He is always enthusiastic. He does not care for success or failure. He is equal in both distress and happiness. Such a worker is situated in the mode of goodness. Krishna is speaking to me because I can't be sad because you're leaving. I have to continue. Ragikanarma palapapsur lubdho himsatmako suchihi harshaso kanvita karta rajasa padikirtataha. The worker who is attached to work and the fruits of work, desiring to enjoy those fruits, and who is greedy, always envious, impure, and moved by joy and sorrow, is said to be in the mode of passion. Purport. A person is too much attached to a certain kind of work or to the result because he has too much attachment for materialism or hearth and home, wife and children. Such a person has no desire for higher elevation in life. He is simply concerned with making this world as materially comfortable as possible. He is generally very greedy, and he thinks that anything attained by him is permanent and never to be lost. Such a person is envious of others and prepared to do anything wrong for sense gratification. Therefore, such a person is unclean, and he does not care whether his earning is pure or impure. He is very happy if his work is successful and very much distressed when his work is not successful. Such is the worker in the mode of passion. Ayukta prakritas labdas sato naiskritiko lasaha Vasari dirga sutricha karta tamasa uchite. The worker who is always engaged in work against the injunctions of the scripture, who is materialistic, obstinate, cheating, and expert in insulting others, and who is lazy, always morose, and procrastinating, is said to be a worker in the mode of ignorance. Purport. In the scriptural injunctions we find what sort of work should be performed and what sort of work should not be performed. Those who do not care for those injunctions engage in work not to be done, and such persons are generally materialistic. They work according to the modes of nature, not according to the injunctions of scripture. Such workers are not very gentle, and generally they are always cunning and expert in insulting others. They are very lazy. Even though they have some duty, they do not do it properly, and they put it aside to be done later on. Therefore they appear to be morose. They procrastinate. Anything which can be done in an hour, they drag on for years. Such workers are situated in the mode of ignorance. Buddhirbedam datishchaiva gunatastriviram shrinu Prajamanam asheshena pritaktena dhananjaya. O winner of wealth, now please listen as I tell you in detail of the different kinds of understanding and determination, according to the three modes of material nature. Purport. Now, after explaining knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower in three different divisions according to the modes of material nature, the Lord is explaining the intelligence and determination of the worker in the same way. Pravritim cha nivrittam cha karya karye bhaya bhaye bandham moksham cha yaveti buddhi sapartha satviki. O son of Prita, that understanding by which one knows what ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating, is in the mode of goodness. Purport. Performing actions in terms of the directions of the scriptures is called pravritti, or executing actions that deserve to be performed. And actions which are not so directed are not to be performed. One who does not know the scriptural directions becomes entangled in the actions and reactions of work. Understanding which discriminates by intelligence is situated in the mode of goodness. I'm going to read that last sentence again. Understanding which discriminates by intelligence is situated in the mode of goodness. This sentence seems kind of wrong to me. Yaya dharma dharmam cha karyameva cha ayathavat prajanati buddhi saparta rajasi. O son of Prita, that understanding which cannot distinguish between religion and irreligion, between action that should be done and action that should not be done, is in the mode of passion. Adharmam dharmamitiya manyate tamasavrata savartan viparitangscha buddhi sapartatamasi. That understanding which considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion under the spell of illusion and darkness, and strives always in the wrong direction, O Partha, is in the mode of ignorance. Purport. Intelligence in the mode of ignorance is always working the opposite of the way it should. It accepts religions which are not actually religions, and rejects actual religion. Men in ignorance understand a great soul to be a common man and accept a common man as a great soul. They think truth to be untruth and accept untruth as truth. In all activities, they simply take the wrong path. Therefore, their intelligence is in the mode of ignorance. Tatraya dharayate mana pranendriya kriyaha Yoganavya vicharinya dhriti sapartha satviki. O son of Prita, that determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadfastness by yoga practice, and which thus controls the activities of the mind, life, and senses, is determination in the mode of goodness. Purport. Yoga is a means to understand the Supreme Soul. One who is steadily fixed in the Supreme Soul with determination, concentrating one's mind, life, and sensory activities on the Supreme, engages in Krishna consciousness. That sort of determination is in the mode of goodness. The word avyabhicharinya is very significant, for it indicates that persons who are engaged in Krishna consciousness are never deviated by any other activity. Yayatu dharma kamartandritya dharayate arjuna prasangena bhalakankshi dhriti saparta rajasi. But that determination by which one holds fast to fruitive results in religion, economic development, and sense gratification is of the nature of passion, O Arjuna. Purport. Any person who is always desirous of fruitive results in religious or economic activities, whose only desire is sense gratification, and whose mind, life, and senses are thus engaged, is in the mode of passion. Yaya swapnam bhayam shokam vishadam madam evacha navamunchati dormedha dhriti saparta tamasi. And that determination which cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion, such unintelligent determination, O son of Prita, is in the mode of darkness. Purport. It should not be concluded that a person in the mode of goodness does not dream. Here, dream means too much sleep. Dreaming is always present, either in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance. Dreaming is a natural occurrence. But those who cannot avoid oversleeping, who cannot avoid the pride of enjoying material objects, who are always dreaming of lording it over the material world, and whose life, mind, and senses are thus engaged, are considered to have determination in the mode of ignorance. Sukham vidanim trividham shunu me bharatarshabha abhyasa dharamate yatra dukhantam cha nagacchati. O best of the Bhartas, now please hear from me about the three kinds of happiness by which the conditioned soul enjoys, and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distress. Purport. A conditioned soul tries to enjoy material happiness again and again. Thus he chews the chewed. But sometimes in the course of such enjoyment, he becomes relieved from material entanglement by association with a great soul. In other words, a conditioned soul is always engaged in some type of sense gratification. But when he understands by good association that it is only a repetition of the same thing, and he is awakened to his real Krishna consciousness, he is sometimes relieved from such repetitive so-called happiness. Yat tadagre vasham eva pariname mritopamam tatsukam satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. Repetitive so-called happiness. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. Purport. In the pursuit of self-realization, one has to follow many rules and regulations to control the mind and the senses, and to concentrate the mind on the self. All these procedures are very difficult, bitter, like poison. But if one is successful in following the regulations and comes to the transcendental position, he begins to drink real nectar, and he enjoys life. That's the secret. Vishayendriya sanyoga yattadagre mritopamam pariname vashameva tatsukam rajasam smritam. That happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects, and which appears like nectar at first, but poison at the end, is said to be of the nature of passion. Purport. A young man and a young woman meet, and the senses drive the young man to see her, to touch her, and to have sexual intercourse. In the beginning, this may be very pleasing to the senses, but at the end, or after some time, it becomes just like poison. They are separated, or there is divorce. There is lamentation, there is sorrow, and so on. Such happiness is always in the mode of passion. Happiness derived from a combination of the senses and the sense objects is always a cause of distress and should be avoided by all means. Yaragre chanabandhe cha sukam mohanamatmana nidralasya brahmadotam tattamasam udahritam. And that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, and which arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be of the nature of ignorance. Purport. One who takes pleasure in laziness and in sleep is certainly in the mode of darkness, ignorance. And one who has no idea how to act and how not to act is also in the mode of ignorance. For the person in the mode of ignorance, everything is illusion. There is no happiness either in the beginning or at the end. For the person in the mode of passion, there might be some kind of ephemeral happiness in the beginning and at the end distress. But for the person in the mode of ignorance, there's only distress both in the beginning and at the end. Natadasti prativyam cha divi deve shiva punaha satvam prakriti jai muktam tadevi syatravir gunai. There is no being existing either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems which is freed from these three modes born of material nature. Purport. The Lord here summarizes the total influence of the three modes of material nature all over the universe. Any comments, questions at this point? Anything? Got a Hare Krishna. Well, I'll just share it from hearing this section. It's just nice to hear things put into perspective in terms of the three modes, because as devotees, a lot of times we might say, okay, like Krishna's arranging this, or something like that, or it's not always realized how deep the three modes go and how they're acting on even subtle levels. Like we're hearing about determination in the different modes, and subtly how the mind is working in the different modes, and different conceptions that are in the different modes. Like the first one we heard about, viewing philosophically the world in a certain way, having certain understanding of the soul in a particular way is actually in its different modes. And so, to me, it's nice to hear. It just kind of puts everything in perspective. Like, oh, that's why. That makes sense. Like the comment I made about some people who They see the living entity as, they don't think animals have souls. And that was directly mentioned. Prabhupada said this concept is in the mode of passion of seeing the body as the self and that there's no separate soul from the body. So it's very interesting to hear. And, with a little bit of study, you can go really deep into that. How the modes are governing this, why it's in the mode of passion, things like that. But, I'm not so learned, but I'm just sharing some reflection from a little bit.
Should we assume that mode of ignorance is the lowest level of nature of a human being? Then comes the mode of passion, then comes the mode of goodness. Mode of goodness is the highest level of nature of a person?
Well, it depends, because it is sometimes said in that way, like in a hierarchical way. But then also, Prabhupada, he says, basically, they're all bad, because they're all in the material world, and we don't want to be in any of them, really. It's like, do you want to? It's like a prison cell. You can have a prison cell made of iron and it's all dirty, or you can have a next level one that's a little bit cleaner, or you can have a golden shackles and chains and all nice, but still a jail cell. So it's like, even the mode of goodness is not desired necessarily, but looking at it from the standpoint of within the material world, a sattva guna is definitely considered to be way superior to tama guna, because like we're just hearing now, the different happiness. Someone in tama guna is basically just suffering the whole time. I think it reminds me a lot of like drug addicts. I used to live in Denver, and there were always drug addicts on the side of the road, and you see them in all cities, but there's not too many here. I haven't seen too bad like that, but in big cities, they're just like standing there, and they're like just slumped over, and intoxication is one of the qualities in the mode of ignorance. So I think about that, and actually, maybe the first time somebody does the drug or something, they might feel some euphoria or some kind of thing, but then very quickly it becomes an addiction, and they'll use it and have to keep using the drug to just not feel like really bad. And basically the whole thing is suffering from the beginning to the end. They're not actually really enjoying in like a drug addiction circumstance. So that's considered to be inferior to like a sattvic person who's, eating well, exercising, appreciating sense of peace, appreciating nature, health, wealth, copacetic relationships, things like that. Is, on a material perspective, definitely considered to be better in terms of enjoyment. I don't know, just some thoughts. What do you think, Prabhuji?
I don't know. I always thought that should men aspire to be in the mode of goodness or not?
Well, my understanding is, Prabhupada says that this sattva gun is like the springboard to Shuddha sattva, or like transcendental goodness. So there's a whole systematic way that one can elevate oneself to sattva guna. But we just read recently that by taking the Krishna consciousness, it automatically happens. Prabhupada was making this point. It was in the Bhagavad. We can find it and read it. I believe it was either here or there. But he said that he's explaining the process of becoming a Brahmin, and like a Brahmin versus a Vipra. Once one becomes a Vipra, then they have to become a Vaishnava. He said a Vaishnava is already a learned Brahmin, whereas a Brahmin should become a Vaishnava if they're not, to be complete in his Brahmanism. And he was making the point that even one who's born in a low birth can become Brahmin. So, if we're like really in Tamagun and we can't really focus in our Krishna consciousness, then taking on habits that will help promote us to Sattvagun would be favorable. But if somebody is very transcendental, if they're absorbed in Krishna consciousness, hearing and chanting, it would not be beneficial to try to be in Sattvagun because it is a material guna.
If I understand you correctly, what you're saying is mode of goodness is better than being mode of ignorance. But the mode of goodness should be used as a springboard to reach to a higher level of consciousness.
Right.
One should not stop at just the mode of goodness.
Right. Because ultimately, it can't give any permanent results. And if you think about it, sometimes, like here's an example of Sattvaguna not being favorable. Favorable meaning to our ultimate goal of Krishna consciousness. If somebody's in Sattvaguna, this is like you go to distribute books and they say, I'm good. Sattvaguna is like a sense of happiness, a sense of peace. You don't feel like you need anything more. You feel kind of comfortable. And so then you don't have the impetus to go deeper and seek out higher knowledge. But if you live your life like that without pursuing higher knowledge, imagine everything's comfortable, nice family, work, everything is exactly the way you want it, you achieve your goals, and you very much love your family, you got the perfect, you worked your whole life and you finally built the dream house on the hill or whatever, and the car you always wanted, a nice Jaguar or something, and you work and you did all that, you maintain your health, and there's some enjoyment in just maintaining health. My mother is like very much kind of sattvic. They always are exercising, and but without any higher knowledge, because of the tendency to enjoy materially, it makes it very, very difficult when you have to leave the body, and when your body starts getting old and can't keep up anymore. It's very frustrating. Like this is like the main source of my enjoyment, of exercising and feeling good. And now no matter what I do, I can't get it to feel good because it's getting old and decomposing basically while I'm still in it. It's awful. And then, so many other things. So in that way, a sattva guna in your life can really be awful at the end. Because all the stuff you love this house. It's such a peaceful environment, exactly perfect how I want it. And then whenever you're going to die, you're thinking, oh, who's going to cut the grass and who's going to feed the cats and who's going to water all that stuff. Whoa, the children, everything. So then we become attached, and it's like, if you're practicing higher consciousness, it's easy you're not so attached. You can let it go. You already know. I've been preparing for this. Otherwise, it's very painful. If we're like attached to something and it gets forcibly taken away, so there's pain. It's painful. Yeah. So that sattva without the higher knowledge is ultimately not desirable. But if you're thinking within the material world, it would be better than just suffering the whole time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you got anything?
No.
Anything on here? No? Yeah. I like hearing this because it's practical and we can also observe it. If we just take one thing, like the next couple verses, peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, I can meditate on these things and observe, like, oh, okay, sattva guns. Oh yeah, there's some Rajagun right there. Like if we go to Court Street to distribute books, you can observe all the different modes in different ways, different people. Yeah. Practical. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, then we can end here. Thank you. Hare Krishna. I'll go to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki. Hare Krishna.